let's talk now to Daniel Kebede, General Secretary of the National Education Union. Thank you for your time this afternoon. How are your members feeling?
So our members would like to see the pay review body report published in full. We're quite disappointed actually to hear what proposed recommendations there may be via the press. That was something that was a feature of the last government. We would hope that this government would do things differently. So we'd like to see the pay review body report published and so we can assess it. But most importantly, we need to see pay awards properly and fairly funded.
So given everything that you've just heard our political correspondent tell us about the lack of fiscal headroom available in the Treasury at the moment, can you give us a realistic assessment of where you think your members will be, let's say, in a month or so's time, if you don't get the 4% that you would like?
Well, it's really important to recognise that education is in crisis at the moment. There's a crisis in funding and a crisis in recruitment and retention. We quite simply do not have enough teachers in the system. We have 1 million children being taught in class sizes of 31 or more. So it's really important that we do have a pay award that takes steps to address that crisis in recruitment and retention. But equally, we need to see the pay award funded. Now, no teacher wants to take strike action at all, but it's really important that the government listens to the profession and tries to avert the crisis. They were elected on the promise of change, of recruiting 6,500 new teachers. We hope they stick to those promises.
I'm sure that some of our listeners, though, Mr. Kebede, might be thinking, well, actually, the teachers have had money. They've received a 5.5% rise this academic year. We are still living through very tough times. And Bridget Phillipson says, put children first. And if you want to add all of those things up, the answer isn't strike action.
Well, we would like government to put children first, and that means that they need to invest in education and invest in the workforce. I appreciate that the government has difficult economic decisions to make, but they are spending money, increasing defence spending, for example, at the moment. We would like them to also increase education spending. And there is the wealth in this society for that to happen. A 2% wealth tax on those with assets more than £10 million would raise £24 billion. Quite simply, there is the wealth in the economy to ensure that doctors, nurses, teachers, support staff have a fair pay award this year.
So, again, some listeners might be thinking, well, actually, Rachel Reeves has tried to do her bit for public pay on arriving in office. And clearly, I hear you when you say that for your members, that doesn't seem good enough. I know that you've previously said that MPs will pay a high political price if the pay offer isn't improved. And I wonder what exactly you mean by that.
Well, that was part of my conference speech in which I said that we would campaign in constituencies to ensure that education was properly funded. We do not want this Labour government to be the first Labour government since the 1970s to enforce education cuts. We would like them to be a bit more like the Labour government of 97 onwards, where it's education, education, education. We all want to see a prosperous economy and the economic growth. We share that vision with the Chancellor, but to do that, we need a properly funded education system, we need fairly paid teachers, and we need investment in our children.
How do you think, and what do you know of how parents might see more strike action? It's just been such a very, very difficult 6 or 7 years for parents and their children, hasn't it? We've come through lockdowns. We have had some strike action before. There is a dreadful tragedy of lack of attendance in our schools at the moment. And it's just very difficult, isn't it, for many parents to work out what it is that is best for their kids. And conversations like exactly the one that you and I are having now, I think sometimes just add to the fear, actually.
I mean, I'm a parent and I was a teacher. I was a teacher taking strike action in 2023. Strike action is something that every teacher wants to avoid. No teacher enjoys doing it. But equally, as a parent, I would like to see education properly resourced, properly funded, because that's really what is at stake, is our children's education. Currently, we have 1 million children being taught in class sizes of 31 or more. So deep is the recruitment and retention crisis. We have the highest class sizes in Europe at the moment. We want to see a change in direction from this government. And you are right, the government did do the right thing last year in implementing and funding the 5.5% pay award. But you have to bear in mind that that was the first year following 14 years of austerity, where schools have been stripped to the very bone in terms of the resources available to them for those children with SEND, for those support staff. It is a real problem at the moment, and we need to continue a positive direction of travel that this government started.
Before a Labour government was elected, did you think that we'd be having a conversation like this, where clearly you are disappointed by a Labour government?
I was very hopeful that we would see a change in direction in education. This government had a very admirable aspiration of recruiting 6,500 new teachers. But to do that, we need to ensure that teaching is an attractive profession. And the reality is, at the moment, graduates are entering the workforce where they can earn more, have more manageable workloads, and have greater flexibility in other professions. And that is meaning that we can't recruit and retain enough teachers. So, we certainly don't have enough maths teachers, enough physics teachers, but we're also missing our targets in primary. And our children really do deserve better.
Before we let you go, could we gauge your thoughts on the proposed Ofsted reforms as well? An open letter today, which I think you've signed too, says that the new report cards could make inspections even less reliable, therefore exacerbating concerns about the inaccuracy, inconsistency and subjectivity of Ofsted reports. What would you like to see instead?
I mean, the primary thing that we want to see is a system of accountability that is reliable, that is supportive and fair. Ofsted were tasked with a very simple task of bringing about a system of inspection that reduced pressure on the school system. Unfortunately, at the moment, what is being consulted on will not do that. We have between 10 and 11 areas of judgment, each getting a five-point rating that's colour-coded. This is going to make it incredibly high stakes and increase pressure on the system. We have to remember as well, actually, it's not inspection that raises standards in schools. Pigs don't get fatter the more you weigh them. To improve school standards, which is something that we all want to do, we need to see the necessary investment in education.
Do you think that just what Ofsted seems to believe to be the solution, which is to keep the verdict on a school incredibly simple, whether that was one word, which they've now realised is not right, or a colour coding system, is actually quite patronising to parents? I think for most people, when they're trying to work out whether a school is the right place for their children, they are capable of reading a paragraph of words. Would you agree?
We would agree. In fact, I think we need to challenge this narrative that, people use Ofsted inspection reports to choose schools. It's not the reality for the majority of parents. Most children just go to their local school. But you're right. We would certainly support a move to a narrative report rather than trying to simplify down the complex nature of schools to single phrases, single words, and indeed Nando-style colour codes. It's highly problematic.
Yeah. Very good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Daniel Kebede is General Secretary of the National Education Union.